Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Friends Occasionally Not Disagreeing. That's Fond. Good to the last drop. I'm Brett. I'm here tonight with Cody and Justin. We're here to talk about another show that just wrapped up here. There's the second season on Amazon Prime. Before we get into that, let's start with Justin. What have you been up to lately?
Well, finally got the Halloween decorations up at the house, and been trying to do more stuff to get into the spirit of spooky season. So I've watched a couple of movies, none terribly worth mentioning. I guess the best one I've watched recently was The Empty Man on Hulu. It's very slow burn, but by the end it was, I wouldn't necessarily say good, but it was interesting at least. It touched on some kind of neat metaphysical subjects. So if you like sort of psychological, sort of cosmic horror put into a blender, it's worth checking out. But it's like 2 hours long, so just be prepared. I've been trying to read a few books, to also get in the spirit, and not having a whole lot of luck there. The one I'm trying to just plow through to hopefully get to something better right now is Paradise One by David Wellington. And it people talk about the first Alien movie as being sort of a haunted house in space setup. It's got nothing on this. This is just essentially, oh, this spaceship is just pitch black, and this spaceship is full of cannibals, and it's just like from one to the other, and it's so I'm not really betting well for decent spooky stuff, but I'm gonna keep
Hmm.
trying. There's still some weeks left in the month. What about you, Cody?
Um, Mostly just Halloweeny stuff that I've been planning for the party, but I will say a couple TV shows with my kids and I can plug those high quality things we've been watching. No, actually we did just finish up the TV show Gravity Falls we've been watching for like a year, I would say. And Brett, have your kids watched that? Because I think you would love that with them.
That isn't one that they've stumbled on. They've watched a million shows, but that isn't one of them.
Yeah, you as an adult would like watching it while they were enjoying it as kids.
Okay,
It's
I
it's like
definitely would
it's like a
appreciate that.
mysterious town in the middle of Nowheresville, I think in Oregon, if I
Yeah,
recall.
Gravity
But
Falls is great. I'll vouch for that.
yeah,
Hmm.
it was pretty good. I
Okay.
give it like a solid 9 out of 10 for a quick review on that. It was really enjoyable, especially first season. Second season is pretty good too, though.
Mhm.
And there's only 2 seasons, so then it's done. So that's the whole thing. So it's nice.
Ah.
So that was over. So we needed to find some new things. So we just started two new shows. We started, oh my God, mind blanking. Oh, we started on Disney Plus, Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, which was a new cartoon Marvel put out. It's not, it's not officially MCU, but it is characters from the Marvel comics, and it's kind of fun. It has like an inner urban city type atmosphere, and this girl's like 13, but she's a genius, and she builds a teleport that brings this big red dinosaur that gets the nickname Devil Dinosaur, and he's like her sidekick basically. So, and they stop crime and actually get into situations they shouldn't get into. But it's pretty good so far. We watched I think three of those so far, and because my wife is still in tax season, we've had a few days in a row here with like lunch and dinner on our own. So rather than watch two episodes of the same show, because we usually watch something while we eat, we I started this fantastic little indie show you guys should check out. It's on Disney Plus, so take that for what you will as far as indie, but it's called Star Wars Rebels, and it has this
Oh
great
no.
cast of characters. Justin, what happened? Why are you taking your glasses off?
Sorry, I got something in my eye. Don't mind me.
Oh, okay, good. Well, anyway, there's these great characters. There's this little droid named Chopper, and this pilot named Syndulla, and this girl named Sabine, and a guy named Ezra, who's like a little kid in the show. This Janice guy they were talking about, he's in the show, so that's I know who that is now too. So eat that. And the little monkey ape dude that was in Mandalorian season 3, but not Ahsoka for some reason
Oh.
also. So, but we watched two or maybe just two of those so far, I think, and that actually those have been okay too. So we'll see. Cameron's not sold on it. Boston seems to enjoy it, so we'll see if we stick with those or not.
Mhm.
That's about it, I would say, other
All
than
right.
finishing a video game, which we'll talk about next week.
Hmm. Woo.
Or perhaps would be a little more appropriate.
Zoom is cutting out your whistling. I think it thinks it's like a background thing.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's my alarm. You guys see that hottie Lanfear? Anyway, what have you been up to, Brett?
Well, I have been I'm still just Starfield is the only game I've been playing and continues to be. And not regretting that. I'm enjoying it.
Okay.
But we started watching just last night. I'm not sure. It like released like 2 or 3 days ago at this point, but The Fall of the House of Usher on Netflix, which is a very loose adaptation of a short story from Edgar Allan Poe, which I looked at. I think it was first printed in 1839, which is crazy to think about.
Right.
At this point, because it's like that's almost 200 years ago right now. But so obviously it's a very loose adaptation because it's set in modern times. But the first episode was really dang good. I enjoy that a lot. It really sets a cool tone. The show was made by, from what I understand, it's made by the same people who made Haunting of Hill House and Bly Manor, and you definitely feel it. Like it's got a very similar kind of vibe, and it's spooky, and you can tell there's like stuff going on. There's stuff in the story that's gonna be kind of wild and unpredictable. That first episode was really good. I definitely would recommend that for.
I gotta ask to jump in on your story here, but is it set up on Netflix so they're all out, or are they doing like weekly?
Actually, I didn't look ahead. I'm not sure.
Okay.
We watched one last night and one today. I think they're all available, but I didn't actually look ahead.
I was just curious because I know that's one I'm really looking forward to getting into as well, and I had considered it for like one of our Spooktober episodes, but I didn't know if I'd be able to cram the whole TV show in during the month of October of all things. But yeah, it's one I'm excited for too. We were talking about it at my work the other day because we were saying how much, I think somebody else watched the first episode. We were saying how much we like the stuff that Flanagan guy does with those three. And then Midnight Mass was really good also.
It's right. Did that too. I
didn't see, he has another one called The Midnight Club. I didn't see that one. I think that's also on Netflix.
Oh,
it's more
interesting.
anthology style, I think, though.
Okay. I've seen that one on Netflix. I didn't know that he did that as well. That makes me want to look at it more now.
Yeah, and I think he did the movie for the sequel to The Shining too, Doctor Sleep. He did the movie for that. I think there's a couple movies he did, but yeah, he's found his little niche there with the scary TV shows.
Yeah, seems like it. So that's pretty much what I've been up to. So I guess let's get into our topic here. Tonight we are talking about
Lanfear.
Yes, as much as often as possible.
Jump early there.
We this is Wheel of Time season 2, and we did talk about the first episode. We kind of reviewed that here back several weeks ago. That was episode 84 of our podcast. So if you care to go and check that out, if you're so inclined to, before you listen to this one, feel free to do that. Yeah, let's get into it here. Season 2, this was definitely a very long wait, as we discussed a bit in the other episode, but nearly two years from the release of season 1 to the release of season 2. I mean, we can talk about some of those reasons perhaps a little bit later, but it definitely it was feeling very long for me, especially as a big book fan. And I think probably a lot of people who were anticipating it were also kind of feeling, I know, Justin, like you had mentioned, like you basically forgot it was even a thing because it's been so long.
Yeah.
And also it seemed like the show, after the way they ended the first season, at least to me especially, really felt like they kind of needed to earn a bit of trust back from fans, both the hardcore book fans and the new show fans, because it definitely was. It had some criticisms for certain. Leave it at that. But so I guess let's get into whether or not they came through on that. So I don't think we need to go over a plot summary here. I'm not even going to try and do like a condensed version. I think we just jump into it. And I'd like to start with characters. So, I mean, the Wheel of Time is it's a very character driven series. There are I don't remember the number now. There's something over like 2,000 named characters in the book series. And this show is obviously going to be much less, but we do have a lot of named characters already in this series.
Lanfear, I forget Lanfear.
We so and in the season we get a bunch of new ones as well. So just to name a few of them, we get Lanfear, Elaine, Avienda, Varen, Shiriam, Elias, Hopper, Ingtar, Dane Bornhold, Rena, and Moghedien. Do any of you guys, do you have like some favorite characters from the season? Favorite memories, moments from them?
Well, they killed the best boy, so I mean, it's automatically a 0 out of 10.
They killed what? Yeah.
Best boy.
He was the best boy.
So sad.
Yeah. But I do have to hand it to them for not pulling that punch. I mean, so many shows or movies, it's they shy away from any. The dog always lives, and I'm sad. I'm sad Hopper died, but I mean, it shows that there are stakes. So I mean, rip Hopper.
Yeah, sure. I was actually shocked at how gory they made it. Like a lot of those times, especially with animal violence, they will they'll off an animal, but they'll do it off screen as well. And they just sank that axe right into him on screen. I was like, whoa, okay. That'll get a reaction out of people.
But yeah, in general, like I think there were some strong additions in this season and some strong development on characters we had already been introduced to. Like just take Liandrin, for example. Easy character to hate. She's built up as just this power-hungry, manipulative, horrible person who's only in it for herself. And lo and behold, she's given layers that I hadn't expected, and she's not entirely likable, but she at least is relatable and understandable as a person instead of just a trope now. And you mentioned Elaine, like okay, it's like, oh, she's going to be the rich pampered member of the tower. Yeah,
legitimately a princess.
Yeah, and I thought that was going to be all there was, but no, she uses her powers to make beer, and she doesn't like the station that she's in, and she's actively trying to be her own person. I mean, there's just little things like that just keep being added to these characters, and it's great, I think.
Agreed on all those points.
Yeah, it seems like they really, in this season, because Brett, I'm with you. After the first season, I worried about both of those audiences you mentioned, which is, the hardcore people are like, you're not doing this justice. I'm going to tune out. And for whatever reason, I don't know how you can have like over a dozen New York Times bestseller books and still be an underground book series, because I do feel like that's the place this occupies in America. Yep. Like if it's not Lord of the Rings or Twilight or The Mockingbird with the Hunger Games, there you go. Like people don't know about it, which is just crazy that this is so popular to some people, and other people are like, I don't know what that is.
Mm-hmm.
So after that first season being introduced to new audiences here on Amazon, that presentation was shakier. So I think they had a lot to prove this year for those people as well. But as far as you're talking about characters here, I think they did a really nice job with a lot of them as far as giving each character like a story that we as an audience care about, and like making them seem like a real person, like the goods and the bads, like Justin's saying, the villains have layers to them in this. The heroes also have moments, where they're doing things that maybe are not something they'd be so proud of the next day because they chose to make a decision in the heat of the moment, or the situation demanded it, or whatever the case may be. But just as far as standouts for me in this season, I mean, I really thought Nynaeve was focalized very well by the show this season, and she did a fantastic job. Just looking here, Zoe Robbins, she was great as Nynaeve in this season.
Mm-hmm.
But they gave her a lot of screen time. They really let her story kind of develop, which, I mean, I'm sure you're going to talk about books as we go on here, but she does have some big things to do in the books as well. So it's good they got her going. But even like Egwene like went through a ton of stuff in this season, and on the one hand, you could be like, well, she sat in a room for, like 3 episodes or something. But on the other hand, like
Yeah, it seemed that way.
that was all character development in some ways too. So
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's cool is that I'm guessing it's intentional, but they, even though we do jump around to most of the cast, through most of the episode, the episodes, we had a whole episode that was basically just Nynaeve. And we had a whole episode that was basically just Egwene, which is very much reminiscent of the books. Like you'll have entire chapters. That's really how it is. It's set up as a chapter is a part, like an arc of a character, and then the next chapter is someone completely different. So you'll meet that character. Obviously, interacts with other characters within his or her chapter, but like the story is fixed on them for a full chapter. Right. So. In that way, I think some of these episodes really felt kind of like the books, which was pretty cool to see. And yeah, despite there being so many kind of main characters in this story, I do feel like they're doing a pretty good job of giving them all enough time to develop and learn some more things about these people, and have them be able to interact with each other and formulate. So you see these bonds between other characters. It definitely is a step up, I think, as far as that goes. One that really kind of stood out to me was we talked about they had to recast Mat because the first actor, we still don't know, basically just left, whether it was a conflict of just he couldn't fit into his time, or whether he didn't agree with what the show was doing. We don't know, but
he thought it was the Lord of the Rings property. Found out it wasn't.
And so he was out. They bring in Donald Finn, and I think he did an amazing job as Mat. This was something that I discussed with my wife quite a bit, because my wife, my wife
Kinky role play here.
She was very fond of the original actor. She just liked his look and his style. But I was trying to tell her like this guy, this is Mat. This is what Mat is supposed to be. He's supposed to be charming and a bit kind of like getting himself just like falling into trouble. Just like accidentally, and finding ways to get out of it. And the charm and the humor out of him this year was way better than it was the first season. So I really enjoy that. And we definitely will come back and touch on it a little bit later, but just a quick, like, that the final scene of the finale with Moghedien, she was incredible in that role. I loved every second of that. So just as a casting and character note, I just wanted to throw that in here. But I was very happy with the season with the characters we got. And I'm not gonna try to go back and compare books to the show too much in this this review here, but almost all these characters feel like they do in the books, which is a very good job as far as I'm concerned that way.
Brad, I think it just goes back to, and this is kind of tipping my hand a bit for my score already, but the pacing in this season, I can't put my finger on why it was so good compared to last season. But last season, we definitely harped on a lot of like, here's Egwene and Perrin running through the field for 30 seconds. And cut, next pair. What are we talking about in this story?
Yeah.
And, you mentioned like adequate screen time for all the characters, but it wasn't just like the main ones either. Like, I'm looking through this list, like Min was like so fleshed out in this. Even like Logain was so fleshed out in this season as to somebody who's like under house arrest for the season, but he felt real.
Yeah.
He felt, vivid and like Avienda felt real in this, and like some of those characters aren't given a ton of screen time, but somehow we've developed as an audience, like we understand their personality, we understand some of their motivations, like how they view the world is different from place to place and character to character or people to people. I don't know if we quite get all the people to people in the books, but again, you can't have, simultaneous 13 nation stories going on a TV show either. So
yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I just was really happy with the characters this season. Let's talk about just scenes or maybe whole episodes, moments. Are there specific parts of the season that really stood out to you or like really memorable? Favorite quotes, perhaps, or just generalizations?
I will say this is one of the best climaxes to a season of anything I've seen in a while. Like as everything is kind of coming to a head. There's fireballs being lobbed everywhere. There's ghost armies being summoned. There's just like there's so much going on, and yet it all works together. And when pretty much all the heroes gather together on top of that tower, for that final confrontation with Ishamael, it felt right. I mean, it was just such an engaging, such a well-crafted confrontation, and like I said, just top marks to them for having that all come together so well. I don't know how closely it follows that sequence in the books, but man, on screen it was good.
Yeah, I would agree that scene definitely it was very adrenaline packed, especially that final showdown on the tower top. To answer your question quickly, there was I would say the final episode was more they made up more than they actually used from the source material in the episode. But yeah, I agreed. There was quite a bit of
I was going to ask too, because again, I can't remember all the books all that well, but in that battle in the books, are all of the characters even in that town?
They are, yes.
Oh, they are at that point? Okay,
yeah.
I wasn't even sure of that, so.
Yeah, I think as far as characters being where they're supposed to be, I'm fairly certain that all of them are supposed to be there. So, yeah, that lines up. Well, except for Avienda wouldn't be there, actually. Yeah. That's the one. But that's something we can get into in a bit, as it's part of their way of condensing the books into this show. That's part of why that happened. We can get to that.
Okay.
As far as favorite scenes, I don't know that either of these are a particular scene, but maybe just mention characters one more time here. I think we already talked about in the premiere episode how the Forsaken in this show are just in season 2 shown to be so well portrayed on the screen. Oh my gosh, between Lanfear when Lanfeared, and then also with oh my god, I'm blanking. Who's the other
Ishamael?
Ishamael, thank you. Those two are just so great at chewing scenery. Oh my gosh, like that guy. I don't know who that actor is. I gotta see what else he's in though, because man, that guy can like command the screen when he's on it. Like everything he did, I found super interesting, and like his little game he's playing at manipulating, and like his tension with Lanfear and with Seanchan and everything else. Like he was so great in everything. And then Lanfear was so great also because just, I mean, aside from Lanfearing and being so beautiful and in leather and dominatrix, like, but beyond all that, like she had like, I don't know, like the things she did in this TV show seemed to be more like, she went out of her way more to like kind of impress Rand, which seemed not that way in the books, I would say. Like she was like, I'll go help Moiraine, and I was like, whoa, what's happening right now? Like there's decisions being made, but again, it's making the TV version of that character feel very distinct, but also so cool.
On that note, I love the villains in this in general, because it's not used as often as I would like, but when you've got villains who aren't always seeing eye to eye, when they have their own motivations and goals and desires, and that puts them at odds with each other sometimes, or at least gives them more to work with than just we need to resurrect the evil one, that sort of thing. When they have their own drives that are pushing them forward, it's just so much more interesting, and that it works really well here. I mean, we only really see kind of glimpses of it, but at the end, it's really obvious that, oh, okay, the Forsaken are all out for their own ends, and I really am looking forward to seeing how that all develops in the future.
Yeah, agreed. I also, so I mean, obviously as a book fan, I knew obviously who Celine actually was. I'm just curious, Justin, did you have any inklings before the reveal, or was that a complete surprise?
There were a couple of little mannerisms or things that she did that kind of had me tilting my head, like, did I hear that right, or is she does she have something else going on? But I didn't fully expect her to be what she was. I thought there might be something up with her, but I didn't expect that.
Yeah, maybe like a plain old dark friend or something.
Yeah, I didn't think she'd be one of the actual Forsaken, and I was just like, oh, okay, this is a different level now.
Yeah, I loved that end of that episode where we get the reveal of who she actually is, and then the whole first bit of that next episode where it's like she's chasing them down. I really enjoyed those scenes. Like she felt like legitimately creepy, and those scenes were dark and tense, and it just was really, really cool to see. I thought that was really well done. And you get they really show this how powerful the Forsaken are, and she just cuts a dude's head off with literally a flick of a wrist, just zip, and his head's gone. Which yeah, go ahead. I'll say it now. Just there's one thing that bothered me a bit was that, like, we don't see weaves from that. It's just like a little. There's like some sparks in her hand, and then just like his head falls off. Which, everyone else who's channeling, we see weaves coming out of them. So, I don't know if they'll explain that or not, but it did. But otherwise, I really enjoyed that. One thing I noted as well. I don't know if you guys caught it, but there was a moment where in the scene where Varen is going to meet Shiriam in her office, and like one of the first things you see is we come in the room and one of the novices is dusting the torture devices. And I laughed so hard at that because they kind of allude to it a bit where Elaine basically takes the blame for her servants basically doing things on the tower they're not supposed to, and she takes the punishment, and Shiriam says, well, I'll see you every morning for your daily lashing, essentially. And that is definitely a thing in the books where there is a whole lot of spanking going on in that room. To put it bluntly.
Oh my.
Yeah. Maybe a little bit less pleasant than I made it sound, but yeah. So anyways, yeah, there's just dusting the torture devices off. I thought that was pretty funny. I guess let's just get into some general highs and lows. Just, I mean, whatever you got. Let's just throw some stuff around and just talk it over.
I wanted to throw out one thing, Brett, especially as a longtime book reader. What did you think of how they did the ways in the show and the doors that opened it?
I think the ways once they're inside the ways, I think look pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I think the sets are very accurate to what I had envisioned, and one thing that's really cool about those that I had read was that those sets are legitimately just like big building blocks. Like they'll have a set, film a scene, and they will take all those pieces and just move them around a bit and then film another bit of the scene. And it looks like it's a completely different area, and it's just pieces being moved around.
Oh, that's
it's like
cool.
this big like Legos essentially.
Yeah.
So the gates, I'm not as much of a fan of. They look good on screen. They're pretty impressive visually. They are not described as in the books. I kind of like the way it's in the books because literally anyone can go into the ways, because there's just essentially a key on the door, a hidden key. But if you know where to find it, you can just walk into the ways, just any old schmo. And I don't know if that was a decision to make it so that you have to channel to open them in this. If that was just, they're just like, well, we'll just do it. I don't know if that was a conscious thing to make it so that only channelers can get in, but it is an interesting. It certainly is much more visually interesting in the show, because the books, it's basically just a dilapidated stone wall with some carvings that opens up into this portal. So it definitely, I think it looks better on the show, and that maybe that's the driving reason why they did it.
I definitely liked the way the ways looked, but as soon as like I saw them channels that opened the door, I was like, wait, what? And I couldn't honestly remember the books well enough to know if there's a scene where somebody who can't channel has to use the ways. I would assume at some point that might happen in the books.
There are a few, yeah.
So I was like, well, how's that going to play? I mean, but who knows if they'll even drive the story that way at that point, I guess.
Yeah. So like, I mean, we've seen, even in the show, we've seen Padan Fain use the ways.
That's
I mean,
true.
we don't. Yeah, I mean, we do. Yeah, we see him come out of the ways at one point.
Okay.
So, it is a thing in the show as well. So how he gets in, I do not know.
Interesting. Okay.
I don't know. Actually, now I'm trying to think. I don't think they have. I'm going to go ahead and say it. It's not like it's not a huge spoilery thing. The way that the Trollocs are like get into the two rivers from this distant land is by using the ways. Okay. And Trollocs and Myrddraal can't channel, so they're getting into the ways somehow.
No, that's true.
And that's obviously it's a thing in the books as well. So, yeah, it definitely is. There's precedent there.
Maybe they'll explain like there is a second way you can open the doors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe we'll see.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of high points, I will say that pretty much all the twists I can think of in this season felt authentic. A lot of them did catch me by surprise, because a lot of times if you telegraph something too far in advance, when the twist gets revealed, it's like, oh yeah, I knew that was going to happen. Here, I was genuinely surprised a good portion of the time, from Selene ending up being, one of the Forsaken, to Loghain being, just in this asylum where Rand ended up working, to Mat figuring out how to use the dagger without touching the dagger. I mean, that just nice little genuine bits of ingenuity and surprising twists that they worked in, that I just it illustrates just how much thought they put into the writing here, or at least the adaptation of the original source material, I would imagine. But it's well executed, pretty much across the board, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say that the biggest thing that I have on my high list is just the acting in general. And that has definitely been one thing that I have not been critical of for either of these seasons, is just the acting. I think the casting choices they've made have been amazing, and the performances these people are giving are really top notch. All these characters feel believable. They don't feel like they're acting. It just feels like you're watching someone on screen, like actually doing these things. So, yeah, I have zero complaints. Yeah, I can't think of anything off the top of my head that
again, that's say. Just like showing behind the scenes what's happening here, though, because with how you are writing your screenplay and how you're formulating the episode and how you're preparing the lines, the dialogue that these people are going to say, like season one at times, this is a criticism, but we both had problems with this. Season one at times felt like it was like a CW show. Mm-hmm. And season two feels like it belongs on HBO.
Yeah.
Like, it's incredible how much it has improved in, like you said, everybody's doing a really good job, and it's dark at times, kind of like you're saying, with the Hopper scene and other scenes, but it's realistic at the same time. But I don't know, like I'm enjoying it quite a bit.
Yeah.
Quite a bit.
Yeah, it just I think we touched on this when we reviewed the first episode, but I have to imagine that somewhere between season 1 and 2, they got together and they said, we need to improve on some things here, because what happened between these two seasons, I don't think just happens by accident. The acting, I say, is great. Not that that needed to change, but like the writing is just better. The pacing is better. The scenes are better. People are having meaningful interactions with each other. Yeah, it's just like you said. This show feels like it belongs on a major, platform, and is using and earning the money that's being thrown at them. Whereas the first season, there definitely were times where it felt like something you would just see on some general cable network. Agreed.
Yeah.
You mentioned in there as well, like they have done a fantastic job of switching the story elements around to allow like a certain pairing of characters to have like a scene together or a plot for an episode or two together or even longer together. And it may not have been that way per se in the book, but they're squeezing and finding ways to like loop information together here. And I can't even imagine, because I haven't been on it this year, but the year before, like I started working on a book myself, and like I was up to 100 and some characters at that point for my book, headed up that way. And it's like just keeping track of plot lines and loose threads and who knows what and what their customs are and what they're carrying on them. And like it gets so confusing so fast. So for them to take this source material, rip it all apart, and then be like, how can we recraft some of these parts together so we can get a season 2 of a show out that's not necessarily the same as season 2 of the book even. I don't know if that goes to the showrunners or if there's like a separate writer there or who, but somebody's doing their job for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Justin might even want those people back off the strike. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, this is night and day compared to the last thing we talked about, which I won't even bother naming. So yeah, this gives me a little hope that, maybe there are people out there who do, care about what they're writing. Because God, it feels like it's been a while since I watched a show where I can legitimately say that. And this is that show.
Well, Brett, you were mentioning highs and lows, and I think it's always a bold choice when a short run count of episodes on a TV show bothers to like use the time that's so valuable in that season to have people stuck in a room repeatedly doing the same thing over and over and over and over, and sometimes that doesn't work, but sometimes it does work, like the series with Egwene here in Rena, which was a pretty cool thing as well. Like just seeing how Egwene had that backbone and was just not going to give in no matter what, and kind of beat the system in a way, because she really never was subservient. She just kind of found a way to get out of her situation in so many words. But that was really cool too, because again, like physically not much is happening in those scenes with her stuck with the Seanchan, but character development wise, like I was not a huge fan of her in season 1, and now after season 2 I'm like, okay, like she's proved herself to me. She's a cool character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she was fleshed out to a remarkable degree in this. And I agree with you, definitely.
Yeah, I was just in the background here, because I hadn't done it beforehand, but I was looking at who the writer and director for each episode, and I was curious whether or not they, excuse me, if they had strayed away from the multiple writer and director, idea, the things that they had been doing the first season, and they actually didn't. They, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's new. 6, 7. Every episode was written by a different person. That's incredible.
Really?
Wow.
And they used 1, 2, 3 directors through the season. So a little bit less variety there, but that is wild that every episode was directed by a different person, or not, was written by a different person, and they still all came together to tell a concrete, a consistent story. That's pretty amazing.
Wow. If only that had happened in Star Wars.
I was checking here too, like it looks like the director this season has been all new compared to the people from last season.
Yeah, I think that's true as well. I don't recognize those names from
I'm looking at the written by. just out of curiosity too. There's some overlap on the writers, so I don't know. They just
Oh.
pieced it together better. I mean, there are some new writers, it looks like, but
Mm.
they're not. Actually, it's I'd say it's about 50-50.
Okay.
Same writers.
Yeah.
Interesting.
One thing that I think they did well this season, because I don't remember them doing it the first season, was they actually took time to at least kind of partially explain how the power works in this magic system. And I think they did a very good Cliff's Notes job of explaining that, you're drawing energy from a source here: air, water, let's see if I can remember, air, water, fire,
Earth.
spirit, yeah, earth. I guess that's all of them.
Yeah.
And it looks so good now. Like I think, I believe one of the reasons why this season took so long to come out was because they were spending extra time in the visual effects department, getting, for one thing, the way that the power looks on screen. I think they did a lot of work on that, and for me, it really paid off. I really enjoy how it looks now. It looks like threads of something, which is what, how it's described in the books, which is also why they call it weaving, because it's like weaving threads together, to form something. And you may also know that the different sources have different colors to them, which is a pretty cool feature. So I was very happy with the way what they did in those regards.
Yeah, it looks more ephemeral, not as chunky as I remember it looking in season 1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was looking at critical reception here out of curiosity for season 2 and 1, and there's not a lot on Wikipedia, which is where I'm at the moment, but I was checking out the accolades show has received. They've got a nomination for the Hugo Awards for Best Short Form, the Saturn Awards for Best Fantasy Series, and they have one nomination for an actor or actress. And I was like, who is that? So I had to go to the cast list, and it's Logain was nominated for apparently season 1.
Ooh.
Okay.
So he did not win that award, but he was nominated. So
Nice.
Yeah.
Another thing that I think they're doing really well visually as well, and it's the really difficult one, is the way they're depicting the wolf sendings, the visions, if you will, is definitely I would say, a very difficult thing to get across in a visual medium. In the books, obviously you can sit and describe something for as long as you want, and so they make it like very clear. Robert Jordan makes it very clear, like how they function, and just for anyone who is not clear on it, it essentially the wolf sendings is like their language. They kind of this telepathic communication, and basically what it is, it's all pictures, like visual images that they send to you, and if they want to get across a point of like the one thing they used in the first, what was it, this season? I guess it was this season, where you see like the elk or the something, running through the forest, and that was them saying, hey, there's something here to hunt, come and join us. But things it's not clear until you like understand the language. It's just could feel like random pictures. But I feel like what they've done in this season, it both makes sense and also looks pretty good. Like it feels like it's something, like actually something that is kind of doesn't have form. It's just like, and it's not like, it doesn't look like it's just pasted on top of the other imagery. It looks like it's fitting into it, and it's kind of there with it. I was pretty happy with that as well.
Yeah, well, even the like sniffer powers that like Perrin has in the season, like I'm thinking of that one time he was with I think the Shinearans at the
The
time.
Shinearans,
maybe.
yeah.
Yeah, and he was like, "There's a lady in that house," and then they like went
Oh,
inside
yeah.
and they were like, "There's nobody here," and then he like had the vision of what had happened there, and I was like, "Oh
Mhm.
snap!" Like, what a terrible curse to have.
Yeah.
Honestly, like to have to live with that, you know.
Hmm.
Actually, another thing I did this weekend was I watched The Conjuring with my daughter,
Hmm.
and like the wife of that team, like kind of the same thing, like has like that weird prescience where she can kind of see what had happened in a place or sense evil, and like she was like looking at like the lady hanging in the tree, which obviously wasn't there in the real world, but like she knew what had happened in that tree, and I was like, God, this is similar. It's like you can sense and relive these terrible things that had happened. Like, what a terrible power to have.
Yeah.
Especially if you couldn't really turn it off reliably.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He in the books he can kind of control it a bit. At least he comes to learn how to like shut it off if he needs to. But yeah, I think for the most part, it's just like it's unwanted information at times. It just kind of flows in, and you just have to deal with it.
Yeah.
I really love the introduction to Avienda. I think it was pretty cool. It's like they definitely made her in a very short amount of time. They made her interesting and mysterious and badass. And those are three good qualities to have in a character.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and that is one thing they I kind of alluded to in that they are condensing down story. And in the books, that character who's in the cage is not Avienda. She is off with the other two characters that we meet a little bit later, Bane and Chiad, the other female Aiel. And she's doing other things, and she actually meets up with technically we wouldn't see her till book 3, season 3 potentially, but
Okay.
there was a different Aiel in that cage that Perrin rescues. And so I think it's pretty clear what they've done is they've cut that character out. Which I really liked Gaul. Gaul was a really cool character in the books. I think that they can very easily, well, I shouldn't say easily, but I think they will slip Avienda into that role instead.
Okay.
Let's see where it goes.
I didn't remember that's who originally would have been there, but yeah, that's kind of a sad loss.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, at least it wasn't Uno. I mean,
let's go and talk about that now. So Uno, I mean that was one thing that I mentioned to you guys. I told you that there was a death coming up because I had seen it and you guys hadn't. How did you guys handle that?
That was Jesus.
Okay, I'm a lot of characters. Which one was Uno again? I'm just
the guy with the patch over his eye.
Yes, the one-eyed foul mouth.
Yeah, that was
sailor dude.
The guy who eats spikes for breakfast and
okay,
also lunch and dinner.
Kudos to him for sticking to his guns, but that was a rough way to go.
Very kind of visceral.
Yeah. Oh my God. And I think they show him later too, do they not?
Well, he's one of the heroes of the Horn.
No, but I mean, like, I think they come upon his body like that still later, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, the Seanchan leave him in a cage when they exit the town.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was he's definitely a fan favorite in the books, and from what everything I've seen, it seems like in the show people really responded to him well as well. He's somebody that was just really fun. I think he was very good on screen, and everything he was in. One of the quirks of Uno in the books that I really enjoyed is that like he literally can't get through a single sentence without cursing.
Yeah.
And so there's parts in the books where he will like he's with some of the female characters and they're like really get on his case about swearing, and he like has like you can feel him like physically struggling to speak without cursing. It's pretty amazing. But yeah, he's really fun in these episodes. That death was shocking, and as I kind of had talked about in our previous review, it felt like it was a good use if you're going to kill off a character that people love and who's not supposed to die that early, it at least was a very good use of it. It was it made you know that the Shan Chan mean business, that they are to be feared, and it also sets up the idea that these characters are in danger, which is something that we talked about in Ahsoka, that they weren't necessarily in danger.
Yeah, they're not going to just like smear medical salve on that and have him be right as rain.
Not so much now. But yeah, the fact that he came back as one of the heroes was an awesome scene. I enjoyed that quite a bit. That
You're
is
second
not
surprised I'm a hero of the Horn. Yeah, it's just
it's not book canon, but it does kind of bring in an idea that is from the books, in that any of these people can be heroes of the Horn. That these heroes don't have to be from millennia ago, So it was a really cool addition. It made that bit of the finale really pretty special.
And it does lend some weight to what Loyal said in that one scene. We're spending so much time worrying about these heroes of the past when we're the heroes that that need to step up in this age. And yeah, that was a great speech, and this illustrated it. I mean, it all comes together. It's pretty impressive.
So I'll lead that. I'll let that lead in my next thought here, is that there are a ton of Easter eggs in this season. I think there's I guess I can't say for certain other shows, because I know this source material so well. So when I see an Easter egg, I'm like, I know it, quite quickly. Maybe other shows have a lot of Easter eggs and I just don't pick up on them. But there are a ton in this season, and that's one of them, in that Loyal is in the books. He is trying to become an author. He's writing. He literally, as they're journeying, he is writing down notes and like preparing to write a book about all this stuff. And I don't think they're going to bring that in to the show, just because it's a fun plot point. I don't see it necessary to the show as kind of like extraneous, perhaps. But it feels like that line is like kind of specifically a call out to that in the books, that he's writing a book about this, a history, if you will. But I'm not going to go into a lot of Easter eggs on this, because a lot of them could be considered spoilers for future plot points, and that because that's literally what they are. It's like, hey, here's something that if you're a fan, you see this and what's coming up. But I just wanted to point out that's one thing I really enjoyed, is seeing little bits of things. Even like fans have pointed out that the the piece of the bed that Matt tears off and uses as a spear in that finale has carvings of ravens on it, and that's something that's very meaningful in the books. So there's little details like that they've stuck into this, that really show that they know the source material, and they're trying to get everything in, as much as they possibly can. It's pretty cool to see.
Nice.
Let's see here. I really, as much as I enjoy this season, I did find many. I mean, not many. I do have a list of of cons here, of negatives that I haven't touched on yet.
Okay.
And so like what just a point I feel like on doing like highs and lows, pros and cons. When you see something that's doesn't work or is negative, it feels like it's a lot easier to like pull that out and like analyze it. So the fact that I have a bunch here, I don't think is showing exactly what I feel. But so one thing that they do here a lot is we see these young channelers, like specifically Egwene and Rand, using like big league weaves, like big powerful spells, and we don't see them like learning them at all. And it's a bit of an issue, I feel.
Well, with like Rand, I figured, okay, that's just something to do with the fact that he's the Dragon Reborn. He's a man who's using this, so maybe it works differently. Like maybe it just flows through him that much more, potently. And I thought maybe that was an explanation there. But I haven't read the source material, don't know for sure. But you are right with some of the other characters like Egwene and such, where yeah, some pretty notable effects without the training necessarily being there to learn them.
Mm-hmm. And we get the plot bit where Rand is trying to get Logain to teach him, how to use the power and teach him stuff, but we never actually gets to that point, and
Yeah.
There is in the books there's quite a fair amount of characters having knowledge that they don't have access to because they are a rebirth of all these characters have been their souls have been born hundreds of thousands of times, so they have like this inner knowledge that they just don't know about, and they have like characters. I'm sure later on we will get into characters have kind of abilities that other people don't have as well, and they just kind of even in the books they sometimes will just kind of like poof learn it, like they just, oh, I remember this kind of thing. But it's not really the way it's coming across in the show. It's more like they just do it. and like you say, Justin, I think in Rand's case at least it could be come down to that, where it's just like, well, he's one of the most powerful souls in existence, so it just comes naturally to him. But at the same time, he's like burning down huts in the Foregate because he doesn't know what the hell he's doing.
True.
So
that's a good point.
I'd also think they haven't made it very clear yet that there's a little bit. Well, I'll get that in a moment here. They haven't really made it clear that people who can't channel are not able to see weaves, and I actually can't tell if they're doing that in this show or not. I haven't. I don't know if I've seen a point where a regular Joe character, has been able to see what's going on, or if and I don't think they've really said it other than the fact that Moiraine has this shield tied off on her, and the only one who can see it is a male channeler. That's definitely something that is true in the books, that women can't see men's weaves, men can't see women's weaves. And so while that part made a lot of sense to me, I don't think it made a lot of sense to people watching the show who haven't read the books.
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess I never noticed that.
I think it caught my attention at the time, but I didn't write it down, so I kind of forgot that it had been a blip on my radar. But yeah, now that you mentioned it, I do. Yeah, I did remember having a bit of a question mark in the back of my head.
I don't think so in the books, but even the warders can't see them, right?
True. Yeah.
Like I'm just thinking of the scene towards the end. I think it was in the last episode, when like Moiraine and Lan are on the beach, and like he's holding off all the soldiers, and she's like doing these huge channels like to attack the ships out in the water where all of the Seanchan channelers are at. And I'm just thinking, like, if he can't see that, which would make sense, like, and he turns around, she's just like doing this dance on the beach,
That would have to look awkward, yeah.
And he's like, "Are you even doing anything right now, or what's happening? Like, I'm holding everybody back here. Look at me, I'm channeling over here."
I hadn't even thought of it from that angle, but yeah, that is a little awkward.
Yeah. I guess I think that they should, for the show, they probably should just do away with that kind of concept that people can't see the weaves, because I mean, how would you? It'd be very hard to portray that we can see it, the viewer can see it, but these other people can't see it. That'd be pretty tough to do. It almost feels like something they should just not do, but they have done it now at this point. So
yeah.
So we'll see where they go with that.
I mean, that
Okay.
is funny to think about on like a bigger scale too, because if the normal people could see the channels, then the channeling and the weaving, then like it would make the Aes Sedai like that much more imposing and like
Mm.
leave them awestruck, I would think, to be like, oh my God, look what she's doing. But again,
Mm,
like if they
right.
can't see it, then they're like, why is that crazy lady dancing over there in the corner? What's she doing?
And then all of a sudden the wall falls down. I mean, it's
And then me husband's neck snapped.
uh,
Uh,
um, I think uh, another thing I had here in the low points, I kind of by and large, all the Aes Sedai kind of feel the same. We have a couple outliers like Leandrin,
yeah.
but kind of like they're all very grounded, practical. They're kind of commanding respect,
mhm.
and that's not necessarily a thing in the books. Like there are a lot of characters who are kind of have some serious character flaws. Leave it at that.
Sure.
And they are, not necessarily likable. They're kind of, they can be off-putting, they can be boastful, and we're not getting any of that here.
Well,
I
beyond
don't,
that, oh, go on. Sorry.
I don't know if that's an issue. It doesn't feel like it's becoming an issue, but a little more variety, I think, in the characters could be a good thing.
Yeah, like we get the idea of what a few of the different colors do, but I still don't feel like I have a solid grasp of what some of the some of the ones that haven't really been focused on, like
Yeah.
what their deal is.
Yeah.
And I know that they probably have their own divisions, and like sometimes they're mentioned in passing. Like I think somebody mentions something about the yellows and like how you don't want to fall under their eye or something like that. But for the most part, like red. Yeah, I got a solid feel for the what the red branch does. Blue, green, and maybe white, I guess. But the others, it's just like I don't know. They're nice to see it for visual variety, but other than that, I got nothing.
Mm. Yeah, that's a fair point too. Um, it's definitely a very interesting bit of the books in that you have all these different kind of societies within a larger group.
Yeah.
It probably isn't real necessary to come across in the show, but it is definitely you kind of like miss out on lore, basically,
Okay.
at that point.
Yeah, there could be characters that come in later that'll explore those other colors a little bit more, but I mean, even in the books, like not all the Ajas are represented equally, in terms of presentation. So
Sure.
you're probably okay. But to me, like the bigger danger there is, and I guess this is lore too, but like if you look at like Moiraine as a blue, for example, like our concept of like who the blues are is kind of shaped by just this one character, or like the
True.
greens are shaped by like these two characters, so it's like, well, is
Mm.
that representative of all the people that have that color, or just those characters that are that color, or does it matter, because I think
That's fair.
kind of what you're saying is they're just not gonna be able to shove all that in with 8 episodes a season if that's all they're doing.
Yeah, it kind of feels that way. You're right. Yeah, we basically at this point, even though we've seen several Aes Sedai, we really only have one, maybe two from each colors. It's just like you say, yeah.
What do the
Yeah.
blues do? They either abandon their post or they get captured by the Shansha, and that's it. I mean,
That's right.
blue, blue, dance on the beach. I'm dancing.
Here. So I also was not a fan of the way the Shanshan collars kind of just like materialize into existence, like, like these nanobots or something.
That's a really good point.
It's really not practical. It's definitely different from the books, and just not practical. Like even in a world that's like magic has heavy magic element, feels like it's too much.
Yeah, maybe they're too elaborate, too big. But yeah, it did feel like almost, something from the Marvel Cinematic Universe or something, like an Iron Man tech or something instead of magic.
Exactly, like Iron Man tech.
Yeah, that's a good point. That one I didn't think about that one, but it does stick out now that you said it.
Yeah.
But
I was willing to roll with it.
Right. Even just the fact that it's like you've got a solid ring, and like as you push it towards someone's neck, it like allows their neck to pass through. Like, is there a front of this ring? Is there a back? Does it say? Is it labeled? Like, how the hell do you know? You don't. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that probably was my biggest criticism of this season was just that collar kind of took me out a bit of this story. I was like, whoa, that's not great.
Yeah, I mean, again, due to speed, I feel like in the books, like them solving how to get one of those collars off someone was like a longer plot point. And in this one, it was like because it had to be done by the end of the season, they were like, and then not that again, Gawain didn't like suffer through trying to figure out how to do it, but
yeah,
they did conveniently find the solution by like the end of the season. So
that's true.
Yeah.
I feel like they really did Turok dirty in that finale.
Well, he's a dinosaur hunter, so what are you gonna do?
This is true. Yeah, he's just not prepared for these what he's got faced him. But
seeds of evil.
I'd say like one thing that I thought was really, they don't really build him up either. Like we just don't have time to really learn anything about him. We know that he's leading this invasion. He's like the leader of the Shan-Chan on this side of the ocean. So he's supposed to be a big deal, and and they're just like, there was a guy on YouTube that I watch who is really good at kind of breaking down the show. He's also a big fan. Shout out to John at What Up on YouTube. But he kind of related this to the scene from Indiana Jones where the guy comes out with a whip and he just shoots him. And after hearing that, I made that's maybe honestly what they did. They just they stuck this in there kind of as almost a tribute to that scene, because that's really what it feels like. It's like
kinda,
Turok he's got a Heron Mark sword. He's a blade master. He's potentially one of the best sword fighters in the world, and Rand just guns him down. And not just him, but like his entire battalion of guards.
Yeah,
so
the entire sequence takes I think less than a minute. Yeah. It's surprisingly abrupt.
Yeah, and it kind of leads into another point. I think what they're going with is they're not going to focus on Rand being a blade master in this show, because that is the point where he technically becomes a blade master, is that he defeats Turok in a sword fight.
Ooh.
And therefore shows that he is able to beat a blade master, therefore he is a blade master. And it's probably all right. If I'm being honest, as looking at it from a storytelling point of view, we would have to have time to see him training with the sword, and there isn't time to do that. So I'm guessing this is, and this isn't just my guess. I've heard other people say this as well, but I don't think that he's going to be a blade master in the show, or at least not for a while. I think they're just going to lean on him being a channeler who has a sword when he needs it.
Which isn't terrible if you think about it. Like, who cares if you're a blade master if you can like move a mountain? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's always been a weird point. Like, if you were shielded away from it or something, and you could fight hand to hand, then I guess it's very helpful. But like, I don't know. It's kind of like you invest that much time on a fallback strategy, which you hope you never have to use to begin with, but. Because he'd be stupid to be like, all right, I'm going to fight this last dude blade to blade, and I could potentially die when I'm the Dragon Reborn, or
Zord. Yeah.
And they did kind of establish that earlier in the scene as well, with Liandrin talking to Nynaeve about I can make a sword out of air. Why the hell would I do that when I could just shoot something across the room? So
you had 3 witches to make a sword out of air. That'd be one thing. But
there you go. That would have been better.
It would be something, all right.
Yeah. Have you guys got anything else that you want to just toss in? Go ahead. But I've got.
It's most of my negatives that you haven't touched on were just like small, relatively inconsequential visual things. The golden pacifiers, those still don't work for me.
I don't understand
what the
that.
hell was the point of those?
I know, right?
Just
like
it's
so channel. It's not like it's
subservient thing. Don't talk.
Yeah, just kind of like a domination kind of thing, I guess.
I assumed once they were in, they were like blocking them from doing something, and then when she just like spit hers on the ground, I was like, wait, what?
Right.
Maybe no one pacifier.
Yeah, they were just silly looking. I get kind of what they were trying to represent, but they just looked goofy.
Mm-hmm.
But it was, I mean, other than a few things you mentioned, any negatives I had were just little aesthetic things like that really, in the end, don't matter all that much.
Mm-hmm.
So,
mine's not a negative, Brett, but I wanted to bring up one other thing here while we're chatting about stuff. With the Forsaken and how their like seals are broken and like where their seals are represented, and that whole thing I thought was interesting because now again, I think we talked about this maybe even in the first season podcast, or maybe it was episode 1 of this season, but like in my head in the books they're like all locked away in like this cavey type place, all like in a similar situation, and here like their seals are like apparently like physical things they could like be transported around, which was like blowing my mind when they were like, here's 6 of the seals, and I was like, wait, what? How were those? Okay.
Yeah, they so basically in the books there are all physical seals as well, but they're smaller and they certainly aren't all together in one place. So, that's they don't bother to explain how Ishamael got a hold of all these or where they were.
Yeah.
That is a bit of a point that I didn't really enjoy, that the fact that he just like kind of had all these with him.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did have questions about that, but it's kind of an interesting twist on it. Yeah.
Aren't they like in my head they're like this big in the books, but I don't know if that's
like and palm sized.
Like, look at my full-length mirror size seal I have for this person. Now, speaking on this topic also, like we obviously have Lanfear and Ishamael, and then we have the 6 seals, I think, in the room.
Mm-hmm.
They have not, am I correct? They have not actually dropped a number yet in the TV show, though. They seem to always say the Forsaken.
Yeah.
I think
convenient.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah.
Did we say 8? We meant 9.
Very briefly, I think they did say 13 in the first season.
Oh, okay.
There was like one short scene where they were kind of explaining some of the history, and I think they say 13. But
okay,
you're right. What it appears to me is that we are going to get 8 in this show.
Yeah.
And we've seen 3 of them, and we have a 4th named, which is Graendal.
Okay.
And then they Lanfear mentions the boys, which there are like 4 other males that we haven't seen yet, that who could potentially be among those boys group. I have an idea of who they might use, but I don't think we don't have any proof beyond that at this point.
I mean, it's just I didn't like that they had the seals all in one place, and I don't particularly love that I don't have a concept of how many are out there in the world. Mm-hmm. If this is all of them now and they're all free, or if there are more out there, like, and maybe Ishamael broke some more seals that he didn't share with everybody else, or I don't know how that's going to play out, but
yeah.
But to be fair, like the 13 in the books, I always had to do like, the like I wish I had 13 fingers as I was reading type thing to be like, okay, like this one's dead, this one's dead, this one's dead, this one's here, this one's here, haven't seen this one.
Yeah, you
So
do
it
kind of
was
get a
like an
checklist.
unwieldy amount, right? So
And
assuming this will work a little bit better.
do I want to bring that point up? No, I don't. I'll leave that out
Okay.
because it could be a spoilery kind of thing. I'll not make them.
Okay.
Let's see. I'll just pick apart a few more of my negatives here. So one thing I also did not like was that apparently the Shatter Logoth dagger is also a lightsaber in disguise.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
No,
this one actually cuts through things.
Oh, that's right. Lightsabers don't actually do that effectively. So that's true. This is even more powerful.
Yes.
The part that I really had a problem with was not the fact that it like was able to cut through steel items, but the fact that we've seen it used previously and it didn't do that previously.
I was trying to remember, like from season 1, if it did that or if it was just like a corrupting influence, and I couldn't remember. So thank you for saying that.
Like the biggest one, in fact, is and they don't make it obvious, but if you're paying attention or watch the finale like 4 times, like I did, Loial actually gets stabbed by Padan Fain with the dagger.
Oh, snap.
And then the next time we see Loial, he's perfectly fine. It's like,
oh
wow, really?
Like we don't even see him like suffering at all.
Oh man.
Oh,
that's like a pretty big issue, like a continuity problem.
Yeah.
Bizarre.
Yeah. And I don't know if what they're gonna continue to do with the dagger at this point. As a like a condensing of the story thing, I have a theory that Matt will have it the remainder of the show, but I don't know that for certain. We may there's a plot point that comes in book 4 that I fear we're not going to see in the show because he now has this dagger. But yeah. Okay. Yeah, so the dagger, I'm not sure exactly what's going on there. That could be issues. I thought it was kind of funny that they had to cut the horn out of its box after earlier in the season we had seen that it simply opens by turning the dials.
Well, it's like the map from Ahsoka. You have to turn the 3 circles, and yeah, it's so hard to figure out.
Too hard. That's a very good comparison. Yeah, this is too hard to figure out. Let's cut this son of a bitch open. And let's see here. The fact that so the scene with Matt blowing the horn and the heroes coming back, I loved. I thought it was pretty awesome. I also had issues with the fact that Matt basically goes from a 0 to a hero in the blink of an eye. It honestly, it kind of feels like the thing they would have done in the first season, and I didn't like that feeling either. It's we get like a quick line of him just going like, oh, I remember, and it's like, you remember what? Can you maybe elaborate on that a bit and like help me out here? I think new fans, new viewers to the show, potentially found that confusing or bewildering. It's just,
I assumed it would get explained at some point.
Hopefully it does.
Yeah.
So I did really enjoy the scene though, because one thing they don't bother to point out in the show, I mean, just time constraint issues, but Matt is actually very skilled with a quarterstaff. Like he's in their village, he's one of the best in the village with a quarterstaff.
Yeah.
So seeing him fight with it in that scene, really awesome. But as a show viewer, we don't have any evidence that he knows how to do that. So
maybe this will trigger it in him after that.
yeah, yeah. This is another thing that comes back to condensing the story. They probably from this point on he will be that Matt, and we won't see kind of like bumbling Matt anymore from this point on. But I don't know. Yeah. Let's see here.
I have questions I want to ask, but I don't want to spoil anything as well. So
yeah, it is. It's a bit tough. I've been dancing around some things as well.
I appreciate that.
The show hasn't really said like one pretty important prophecy to my knowledge. I don't think for Rand, unless I missed that somewhere.
Does it have to do with the Stone of Tear?
No, not that one.
Okay.
No, the other prophecy.
That's to do with like
there are several.
His love life. Let's put it that way.
Oh yes.
Has that been said in the show at all?
Not
in so many words.
Not in so many words.
Yes, I'm kind of curious if they're going to take a different route with that. With this,
so. There was an allusion to it when he first meets Min in Faldara.
She has a little viewing.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I also think that they are going to do away with that plot point. In part, I believe that because of the way characters were paired this season.
That's what I was wondering too. But
I think that's a good way to say that without spoiling anything for anyone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Justin in the books, Rand fucks Loyal, so.
Oh, God, you weren't supposed to say that out loud.
Well, they take their time. He does the tree song through the whole thing also. I want you to know.
and Rand's wood grows.
It's spelled out over several pages. Oh. Are we still on the air? I don't even.
Well, I mean,
that was all me. To be fair, that's
the number of states is dwindling.
That feels like this week's clip. Okay.
Yes.
Still not banned in Nebraska where they have no trees. We're okay. No wood there.
The Sean Chan's shielding Rand from literally a mile away on a boat which could not see him physically bothered me immensely. I don't know about you guys, but that seemed ludicrous.
Like I thought maybe since they knew where he was, maybe that negated the whole line of sight requirement. You know, but I don't know. I don't have that firm a grasp of how their version of magic works. I mean, it still uses the same the same power and everything. But I thought maybe their approach was a little different or something.
That scene does have some issues now. I should think about it because Egwene's the one that's at the top of the tower, and so didn't Ishamael basically tell her to like keep her strongest channelers back until needed? Yeah. Okay, and then I guess but like Egwene's like raining hell down on people, so it seems a bit presumptuous that they're like, that's where Rand's going to end up, so let's wait till he gets up there to see his friend, who's now the only person left moving up there at this point, and then
some general Thrawn level of strategery.
It is.
Yeah.
Let's see how many more references we can make back to the last episode.
You guys loved the last episode of Rebels I watched today.
Let's see. I was just talking about a couple more here. They let's see.
Show could have used some more General Thrawn.
Yeah.
Admiral Thrawn, I apologize.
It doesn't matter, Cody.
Matters to him. Go through those years of training for nothing, Justin.
The last negative here that I'll grab is the fact that they, and this isn't a season critique necessarily, but I was like 90% sure that they had said in between the seasons that they were going to do more origin episodes. There's those, I don't know if you guys have seen them, but on Amazon they released 6 or so animated origin shorts that kind of tell the lore and the history of the world, and I really enjoyed those.
Okay.
And they said they're going to do more, and they didn't, and that made me upset.
Oh, speaking of upset, tell me I'm wrong on this. What was going on with the 8 episodes this season where like 4 had no intro and the other 4 did have an intro?
That was weird.
I saw.
I made up the number on that, but like they did
like,
away with
yeah.
it, and then when it came back, I was like, "What?"
Mhm. I saw or read or something an interview. Rafe Judkins was asked directly about that, and he said it was a time saving issue. They said to save time on these episodes,
What?
we're not
Ugh.
going to play this minute-long intro, which was very well crafted and done. We're just going to make it like 5 seconds.
Who needs to
Interesting.
smack up this whole industry to tell them it doesn't matter?
I know.
They have no constraints. There's no commercial break. You're not
Right.
trying to make the 60-minute mark. Oh my God.
Yeah, you don't have to get it
I
in
don't
before Monday
understand
Night
it.
Football or whatever.
Right.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's
It's baffling. Maybe there's something behind the scenes that we're not aware of, like where a show has to pay for server space. Like we can't make our show file too big because it'll take up too much space in the server. I
that one extra minute.
Yeah.
The only thing I could think of remotely like that is I know like if they were trying to like win a is it an Emmy that's TV?
That sounds right.
They have a lot of strict rules as far as this many minutes is considered like a mini series versus a series event versus a. But I don't know that could pop. And that's the only thing I could think of if they were like, we need to trim these 4 minutes off our season run length to. I don't. That seems like a stretch, though. I don't know.
Because if it's like paying for server space, I mean, this is Amazon Prime. It has movies like Sharks of the Corn, which is longer than an episode of this series.
Is that a real movie?
It is a real movie. It's terrible. Don't.
BRB.
But I mean, if that thing can afford the server space, then I'm sure that a show like this could afford an extra minute of time.
Yeah, I mean, the server thing was just the first thing that came into mind, but I don't know. Is there like potentially something that prohibits them? Like they try and keep episodes shorter for some reason. I don't understand it.
I don't know.
That seems weird. I don't know.
Yeah. I did want to talk a little bit about the finale specifically, because I feel like it really kind of suffered from the same pacing issues as season 1. And I was curious what you guys felt about that. I definitely, I kind of made this point earlier, but it felt like a season 1 episode in a lot of ways.
The last episode?
Yeah.
They did cram an awful lot into it.
And that is it's a thing. It's like, it's also supposed to be, it's a fight. So it's hectic. There's a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
So that, kind of allows it to be a bit faster paced and kind of, things being clipped a bit. But there were things like, for example, Ingtar and Loial like get the horn, they steal it, and we don't see that at all. They just like there's a brief line of them saying, "Oh, this Karianan lady like gave it to us and said, here, take this," and that's how they got the horn.
Yeah,
the most important artifact in the world. They got it from the Shan-Chan off screen.
That's a damn good point. I was just so caught up in it, during the watching that I don't think I consciously picked up on some of this. But,
yeah,
I'm gonna have to adjust my rating now.
I'd have to go back and watch it again. It didn't feel that way to me in the moment.
Okay.
But it could have it could have been great, guiding off its own goodwill from season 2 up to that point as well. So,
yeah.
Yeah, I was just curious how you guys had felt about that, because I did feel like it kind of suffered a bit.
You just thought like the pacing was off, or like there was too much shoved into it, or
a bit, yeah, basically just that there was too much going on and not enough time to like fill out certain things.
Well, they could have probably chopped a little bit of the Maureen and her family storyline from this season because that seemed to have a lot of shots where not much was accomplished. At least, thank God, the kid turned out to be like a dark friend because at first I was like, "We get it. You and your sister don't get along. We get it."
Yeah.
But yeah, with this last episode, I was just sort of caught up in the spectacle as it was happening, and it at the during the I only watched it once, so on every repeated viewing, I might pick up on more of these inconsistencies or things that aren't really developed enough or fleshed out or explained as much as they should be. But given just how hectic everything was, it, it kept me engaged. Maybe to the extent that it made me overlook some of the flaws that are just below the flashy, explodey surface.
It's the highest rated episode of the season on IMDb. It has a 9.1 on that for that episode.
Wow.
The last 6 episodes actually are all above 8. They're all rated as top rated.
Wow.
On IMDb. Episode 6 is right behind it with an 8.9. Rand makes a risky alliance. Egwene gathers her strength to confront the horror of her circumstances. That's all it says on IMDb.
Maybe the audience in general doesn't agree with me on that.
Well, I think it's easy to. I mean, who doesn't love like the portal scene from Endgame? You know, like when you get to that moment where like the shit's flying around, you're like, yeah, like let's see how this is going to play out, and people are going to die, and there's action, explosions. So I think it's easy to buy into the excitement of those types of scenes.
And
Justin, you might be right. Like maybe you do overlook some of the things, that your eyes aren't as drawn to there.
Yeah. But so, I mean, I'm sure at some point I will watch this again. I'm sure at some point I'll sit down and watch this entire show again, which might be tipping my hand a bit as to what my final thoughts are going to be. But so yeah, maybe a repeated viewing will color my impressions a bit. But for this first run, I stand by the fact that I thought it was very engaging, very very fast paced and very climactic. But we'll see on a repeated watch.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, I've got a couple more points here that I could make, but I don't know that we need to. Do you guys have anything anything left to say, or do you want to go into kind of general thoughts and like ratings?
I'm fine heading into like the final stage, general thoughts, the number,
okay.
What we
Well, let's go ahead and start to wrap this up here. Yeah, I think if we just our normal thing, just go ahead and say what you thought about the season as a whole, and give us a rating out of 10. What you would give this?
Okay.
Whoever wants to go first, go ahead and jump in.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead, Cody. You spoke first. Go on. Do it.
I think to me this just starts and begins with the pacing, which was so much better than the first season, and characterization, which is not a word I often use to describe TV shows and movies, more book versions of characters, but I do feel like each character got their due in this show. There's still ones that I think will be developed more, or need to be developed a little bit more. Like I still want to see maybe a little more from not Rand, but Matt and Perrin for sure. I'd like to see their chunk of the story grow just a little bit more yet. But I thought the ladies were extremely well served in this one. Nynaeve, especially, Egwene for sure. Even Moiraine somewhat, although she kind of moped around for a couple episodes towards the beginning of the season. And Rand, I think everything with Rand was pretty interesting too, because he's both interacting with his old friends, but also with these Forsaken that are on the earth, and both of which wanted their claws in him for different reasons too, which was also very interesting. Just similar to how it is in the books on that point as well. But Lanfear has her own version of him that she wants to see come to be, and Ishamael had his version that he wanted this guy to be, and the interactions between both of them is interesting. The interactions between the Forsaken themselves was very interesting. Anytime the two of them were on the screen together, like, you didn't know if they were going to slit each other's throat or make out or hatch some evil plan, or I mean, they had a lot of weird tension between them also. But I think they're doing a fantastic job of just pairing up the characters and condensing story where they can, and I'm really intrigued to see where they're going to go in future seasons with this, and it was like maybe halfway through this season as I was watching, I kind of stopped like comparing it to the book because I was like, okay, this is already its own thing. And it's working for me. I love the books, and the show has been pretty good so far as well. So, like Justin said, this is probably something I think I want to try to find time to watch again. Maybe not even before the year is out, but definitely is something I want to pick back up and rewatch, which might not sound like a big deal, but I could probably count less than 10 shows I've rewatched, period, in my lifetime. I just don't consume media that way. I just haven't in a very long time, since like I was a teenager, probably. So it's a sign of a good show, and definitely something I'm looking forward to as the seasons roll on here. And hopefully the cast stays steady from this point forward, and I hope we have the same actor and actresses portraying who they are going to. Like, I saw, spoiler alert, they already recast Egwene's dad for season 3. And I'm so upset about that. No, I don't care. He's just like a minor character, but he's going to be blue skinned though, so that was a weird choice. But yeah, so I'm just gonna end my review here, my rating, with a quote off of the website Vulture. And this is from a lady named Catherine Van Arendonk. And her quote said, "More villains should be dominatrix-style sex goddesses who stride around magical netherworlds wearing wide-legged pants, obsessed with the chosen one because they want to be in bed with them all the time." And so therefore, I'm going to give The Wheel of Time Season 2 a surprising score here. I'm going to give this a 2 out of 10. But because it has Lanfear in it, I'm bumping it to a 9 out of 10. So my final score is 9 out of 10.
She does carry a lot of weight.
Yes, she does.
I'll circle back to her at the end of my final thoughts here. So I think the biggest testament to the strengths of the show is that I started out, like I always do with everything we watch and play, keeping notes and, just making sure I didn't forget anything and that I had events written down, until about halfway through when I stopped doing that because I just wanted to watch and enjoy what was being presented to me. And beyond that, most of what was being presented left such a strong impression that I didn't think I needed to necessarily reference notes to remember bits, certain things that went on, the important things. I might have forgotten a name here or there, but I've always been kind of bad with names. But in general, it was just such a well-written, presented, I know I've used that word a lot, but I mean, it was just such a well put together show that I didn't feel like I needed to stop every 5 minutes or so and jot stuff down because I was just so involved in what I was seeing. And yeah, that's a testament to its quality, I think. There were a few things that I assumed were in the books that we touched on that were just changes that maybe weren't in there, things that haven't really been adequately explained yet, and certain things I missed that you guys brought up that it lowered my rating a little bit. I still thoroughly enjoyed this. Don't get me wrong. It's one of the best shows I've seen in quite some time, and certainly one of the best fantasy properties I've seen adapted to screen in ages. So yeah, with that in mind, I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. 1 point for every minute it took Lanfear to lace up those boots.
Very nice.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
I went into this season, as we've said, we had a lot of time between seasons, so I had adequate time to prepare myself and get in this mindset of understanding that this is the Wheel of Time show. It's not the Wheel of Time books. And my enjoyment of this season as a whole, I think, went up considerably because I was able to overcome that hurdle. And I would just take a moment here just to implore anybody who's listening to this, who, if you're a fan of the books and you are not enjoying the show because they have changed something, you're doing yourself a disservice. Please make an effort to try and separate those two things. And you will enjoy it much more. But that said, I really enjoy the season just because it is a much better written and produced season of TV than the previous one was. Whatever it is they did to right the ship, they nearly did it flawlessly as far as I'm concerned. As you said a couple times already, the pacing much better. You actually get to spend time with people. You get to have reactions between characters and things, despite things, taking a bit more time with things, we still get a lot of events happening and they all feel like they fit together. Things don't feel clipped. Things feel explained. It feels like the characters are actually like going from one place to another and they're not like huge chunks of time missing or anything like that. It just all fits together really, really well. And I'm so pleased that is what we got this year. I feel like they have redeemed the flaws of the first season and really made me a believer that this is going to continue on a trajectory that is going to make it something truly amazing. I think I'm just going to leave it there. That just basically that says everything that I feel. I loved the season from start to finish. I do feel they stumbled slightly with the finale. I probably would make it like the lowest rated episode of the season, but I still would give it a pretty darn good rating just because the other episodes of the season were all very high on my ratings. So I love what I got here. I believe now that we are going to continue on getting, this quality for the remainder, whatever it is. And so an interesting point that we didn't touch on here was that the first two seasons are basically just the first two books. Like the way this second season ends, that's the ending of the second book. Mm-hmm. There's 14 books. I don't know what they're going to do. I thought they were going to condense. They are condensing things quite a bit, but at the same time, I'm truly just curious how they're going to get through the remainder of this story. We'll see. But I in our episode 1 review, I gave this, the amount of hype that I was feeling for this season, 9.1, I believe. And in contrast to some of the other shows that we reviewed, where my hype was higher than my final rating, I'm going up with this. I am going to give this a 9.25 for the season. I like I said, I did have criticisms, but I think very few of them were like story debilitating concerns. Like the thing with the dagger, that could be a concern, but a lot of those were not necessarily things that are going to like break the show, I think. So, and some of them are things that they can still kind of explain. They can kind of flesh them out better. They just haven't done it yet, and that's why it was something that I criticized. So that's it for me. 9.25. I love the season.
I have one more question I just thought of.
Yeah.
What did you guys think about the literal fire dragon at the end of the season? I forgot to mention that completely.
I did have it on my list. And I it was one of those that I kind of skipped over, but I would have been much happier if it was kind of more ephemeral, kind of like a dragon shaped flame and not a dragon made of flame.
Yeah, I think even just a spiral of fire going up the tower would have gotten the point across, I think, instead of having it open its mouth and roar.
That one bothered me because there's no dragons in the world.
That's true as well. Yeah.
It's like through the books, there's no such thing as a dragon in that terminology. It's like a title. It's like a. So I was like, what the fuck is that? Like I looked at Karen and I was like, why is there? No, you wouldn't know. Never mind. But anyway, yeah, that was.
It is true. Yes. Yeah. I would have personally changed the visuals on that. Yeah.
All right, I'm adjusting my score down because of that scene, which I just remembered. 1.8, and I am bumping the Lanfear score to 7.2 at this point.
Oh, well, that works out.
So still a 9 overall.
She's the hottest thing in the show, even hotter than that dragon.
It's so true. I mean, Ishamael was looking pretty good too, but I don't swing that way personally. But anyway.
All right, ladies and gentlemen.
A well-manicured beard, though, man.
It's impressive.
Yeah.
We I think that's our time for today. We are going to head out of here, and I just have a sneaking suspicion that Cody might have some more things to say about Lanfear. So I'm going to give him 20 seconds on the clock to expound on his thoughts. And watch him hyperventilate.
Start with 5 seconds of deep breathing. All right. If I were Rand, here's what I would do. Just abandon the whole quest. Go wherever she's at. Just continue to lay in bed. I'm just saying, because that seems to be a pretty good rigged little life that he had going on there with her. And now that he knows her true style and nature, I mean, it's going to be even better, if you know what I'm saying, from this point forward. And it's like James Bond, but you don't have to do the mission to get the girl. The girl's just already there and she always wants you. So I'm just saying it's good stuff. Also, Justin, I'm pretty sure she could somehow use the weaves to get those boots on if need be. All the way up, laced up as far as she needs to get them there. But seriously, though, like maybe one of my actual favorite villains of quite a few shows I've seen here. So,
but hold up, what if my in-laws want to watch this with me?
That's the best part, because your father-in-law might be super into it already, and your mother-in-law probably is old enough at this point that she's already lost all romantic feelings for the guy. So she's like, whatever, same shit, different day. So
excellent answer, Cody. Okay. And with that, we are done with this episode of Friends Occasionally Not Disagreeing. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, come check us out on our social medias on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or anywhere else you can find us. Just Google us and check us out. Share us with a friend. Give us some help out here, and anybody else who might also like to listen to us. So, I guess that's it. We're heading out. Good night.
I think so.
See you next time.
bye.